Welcome back to No Sleep Teal on the Reier on YouTube channel. Travis Reier back with you following the 8th practice for the Jacksonville Jaguars of their 2024 training camp. A lot to get into, another full pad workout, some emphasis on physicality. You had some of that goal line work that we always like to see during the preseason. Unfortunately, it did not come without a cost. And we'll get into that again from the injury standpoint. We did hear from Doug Peterson pre-practice on that front and what he had to say about Anton Harrison being out for the foreseeable future. Hopefully not all that long, but Harrison, the starting right tackle, in concussion protocol. You also have Andrew Wingard, the safety, who was, it's been a handful of practices ago since Dewey went down, but we've got more specifics from Doug on Friday. It is a significant injury, knee injury for Andrew Wingard, going to be out for the foreseeable future. Doesn't sound like it's season ending, so that could potentially be some good news, but might be a stretch, might be a real push to try to get Andrew Wingard back for that season opener down there against the Miami Dolphins. Also, running back Keelan Robinson, he's been dealing with a toe injury really since pre-camp, and we did see the rookie running back from Texas out there during the early stages of Friday's practice, but looked like he tried to give it a go in full pads, and once we got around to 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 work, we didn't really see Keelan Robinson doing much of anything at all. And then you get into practice, and as it moves along, Josh Peterson, son of Doug, working with those tight ends, one-on-one period. Josh Peterson goes down with an ankle injury, required assistance to get into the facility. Patrick Murtaugh, the Australian tight end, significant injury right there in the goal line drills. Perhaps he got rolled up on. One of those injuries that you really just wanted to look away from. It required the air cast. It required the cart to come out. Pretty touching scene to see the entire team come out and kind of, send their best wishes to Patrick Murtaugh as he was carted off the field. And, he's one of those IPP players, the Australian. And I don't know if he makes this final roster regardless, but he's 6'6", 250. He's got those physical attributes you like, and by all accounts, just a really good guy, a great teammate. Also during the practice on Friday, Deshaun Dixon, edge defender, looked like he did an ankle a little bit in a one-on-one pass rush drill, but he did return to practice. And then Cam Robinson working at the offensive tackle position. And again, you're already down Harrison going into the workout. Like Cam maybe aggravated a shoulder, didn't appear to be significant in nature for Cam Robinson. So trying to keep these guys as healthy as you possibly can, but you're balancing the work that you have to get done in full pads. And a couple of other guys, we talk about the offensive line, Stephen Jones, still not in full pad work, the rookie from Oregon, and then also Cooper Hodges has been out for an extended period now there when you talk about the interior offensive linemen. And so with Anton Harrison out, Walker Little jumps in with the ones at right tackle as a sort of domino effect from that. You look at the second team offensive line, look like DaVon Foster, the rookie from Missouri, and also Blake Hance got some time there working with the second team offense at the tackle spots. And now with the tight end situation, I got to think you're going to be bringing in some workout candidates, some potential signees, because with Peterson out, we don't know how long. Murtaugh, it just did not look good at all. Josiah DeGora continues to do some pretty good things. Luke Bowman. Of course, you've got Brent Strange and Luke Farrell to go along with Evan Ingram, so you're okay. But this is still an offense that does lean on the tight end position, the traditional tight end position. Evan is kind of a hybrid. He's a flex player as much as anything else. You look at Evan Ingram and Gabe Davis together, and you didn't know which one was the tight end, you'd have a hard time kind of figuring it out. As for the safety spot with Wingard out for the extended period, it was a good bit of Antonio Johnson in there Friday to go along with Andre Cisco. We also saw some of Darnell Savage later in the practice at the safety position. So you think about depth, Terrell Edmonds still in that mix. He actually had a nice pick of Mac Jones today, Edmonds did, in the one-on-ones. Trey Flowers, we've seen at the the safety position. He's listed as a corner on the roster, but we've seen him at safety, including during Friday's practice. And also of note, not necessarily at the safety position, but it looked like the Jaguar defensive staff was really taking a look at Christian Braswell with the ones at the slot corner on Friday. He's been really, really solid throughout this camp, has made multiple plays. So he got an extended look there. Darnell Savage still repped in some as well, but it was a day for Christian Braswell, I think, to be able to perhaps make an impact, a further impact on this coaching staff. Also, Jarian Jones isn't a safety, but he's kind of that same sort of player in terms of flexibility. You can play Jarian inside. You can play him at corner. Antonio Johnson's like that. We really haven't seen much of at all of Antonio Johnson, though, at the slot corner. And so you like Savage's versatility because he gives you some options with Wingard out. Hey, if Christian Braswell can make a move there at the slot corner, you can play perhaps Savage at safety with Andre Cisco. Of course, you still have Antonio Johnson in that mix as well. Got into some one-on-ones, and it wasn't just the quarterbacks and running backs and wide receivers and tight ends against DBs and linebackers. We actually got a good look at some OLDL pass rush drills, and we'll get into those coming up in just a little bit. But as far as throwing the football, C.J. Beathard had a beauty of a deep ball to Joshua Cephas with DeAndre Prince in coverage. There was a very nice pick by DaVon Campbell off of Beathard. You had a one-handed pick by Prince that was very impressive in one-on-ones. And this, again, was the period in practice where you saw Josh Peterson go down. So that kind of dampened things a little bit from that perspective. You also had a kickoff return period. It's one of the more intriguing aspects of the upcoming football season where the NFL is concerned, the dynamic kickoff that's going into effect and how it's going to be so different, both in terms of coverage approach and return approach. What we did see on Friday was Devin Duvernay and Tank Bigsby up first in terms of return guys when the period got underway. Parker Washington, the wide receiver who you expect to see in this some too, was in fact back deep next to go along with D'Ernest Johnson, the running back. You also had Christian Braswell, the aforementioned slot corner back there with rookie running back Jalen Jackson. And just as far as how you're going to use other personnel to block in your return game, Trevor Lacey doesn't necessarily look like a guy that you would have on a kickoff return team in years past, but you might need a guy like that because of how this is going to work and how this is going to be based on nothing really happens until the run guy or the return guy catches the football. But I think you're going to see more defensive line and bulk in some situations on that front line. And Lacey was up there on the edge on Friday. 11 on 11 is what the practice then shifted to. The offense came out in 12 personnel. 12 personnel, of course, one running back, two tight ends. And there was a lot of personnel during this period from the offense. You had some nice run support. We talk so much about these DBs in terms of coverage, but Ronald Darby's impressive camp continued on Friday. He had nice support of a run by Travis Etienne that he was in good shape to make the play on. Again, you had 22 personnel at times, which is two backs, two tight ends. Saw Tank Bigsby in the backfield with Travis Etienne. You had some 13 personnel, one back, three tight ends. You had some extra OL thrown in at times. So it was really a period, too, for the base defense. It was like a full field inside drill in a lot of ways. It wasn't all runs, but it was a lot of interior runs and runs in general on a day in which you figured it was going to get physical. And you also had Etienne on one play where he just made a great move on cornerback Tyson Campbell. It really was another good day, I thought, for the running backs. Bigsby was impressive again. Travis did some good things. It was a little tougher for D'Ernest Johnson, I think, given the scenarios he was in there in terms of the line and those type of things. And Defensively, there were some interesting things. You had, I thought, a very nice fill on a run by Dearness Johnson, Ventrell Miller coming up from the linebacker position to really provide some thump there. You had Mason Smith. Felt like we saw a good bit of Mason Smith in a more prominent position because we saw him alongside DaVon Hamilton and did some good work, that duo did, on a particular run by Travis Etienne. You saw Mac Jones in there. It felt today like Mac was more of the real number two throughout the practice. CJ still got some reps with the twos, but just had more of that feel to it. It may have just been by design for Mac to get it today. CJ will get more of it tomorrow. Mac did have one underthrow that I know he absolutely wants back because it was run heavy. It was a run heavy period. Then he goes hard play action, a little boot action, and he's got Bowman wide open behind the defense, but the ball just cannot get there. I know Mac would absolutely like to have that one back. We talked about Tyler Lacey earlier in terms of the kickoff return team, but he showed some the ability to disrupt, I thought. It flashed. I mean, it wasn't like every snap that he was in there. He wasn't dominant, but he had what probably would have been a tackle for loss on Dearness Johnson during 11 on 11. You got into the threes again with CJ Beathard. Jalen Jackson has done some nice things at the running back position. He took a toss in that period, got some really good help out in front by his left tackle at the time, Blake Hance. So I thought that was pretty good to see as well. But what you really wanted to see was the goal line work. And so when the offense lined up, again, you had some 6 OL with Hance in there as an extra OL at times. You had 2 tight ends with 6 OLs, and they ran some hard play action off of that with Mac, and he was able to hit DeGuara, the tight end, for a touchdown there in the middle of the back of the end zone. You had some just 12 personnel. I thought Travis Gibson had a nice stop just short of the goal line on Dearness Johnson. The third team defense got another stop. And this was when the situation with Murtaugh happened. And it was just absolutely gut-wrenching because this is a guy, again, who knows if he's actually going to make the final roster, but it just sucks. And it's necessary work. And it's also why you don't see a ton of this, especially in the NFL, because this is exactly with these big formations and these tighter formations and, everybody basically playing between the hash marks. You get piles, you get leg whips, you get rolls, you get stepped on. And it was not pretty for Patrick Murtaugh. Second OL on the goal line. This was pretty good. Tried to run a tackle eligible to Blake Hance. It went incomplete, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. We had a big guy touchdown possibility. Didn't come to fruition, but still fun nonetheless. So you think goal line and you think scoring the football, but there's the other side of that too. Some situations, you got to be able to get off your goal line as an offense. So Jaguars worked on that too, both with the defense and the offense, pushing off of the goal line, 11 personnel to kind of open that. And again, at the nickel position in the slot, that was Christian Braswell, had a really nice ball on a deep out cut from Trevor to Gabe Davis. And again, good coverage by Ronald Darby, but the throw was just too good. Impressive throw. One of those pro throws where you go, yeah, that's why that guy's, a $50 million type of quarterback. And Jalen Jackson, again, to me, flash. Had a nice run working behind the left side of the second team offensive line. He had some determined running. Jalen Jackson and Lorenzo Lingard, I don't know if one or either of those guys will make the team, maybe practice squad. They're very similar. They're 35 and 36 in terms of their numbers. Their body types are similar, and they both run with some determination. I thought Lorenzo Lingard showed some of that coming off the goal line on Friday as well. You get into some 7-on-7 again, man. Ronald Darby, good coverage on a deep corner to Gabe Davis. Chad Muma working in the base defense in a particular look in 7-on-7. He had a pass breakup working against Brian Thomas Jr. And then Trevor with a beauty of a deep ball in 7-on-7 to Brian Thomas Jr., who seemed to get past Jarian Jones pretty easily there to record the explosive play that would have went for a touchdown. And I talked about it earlier as we got back into some one-on-ones, and you wanted to see those pass rush situations. And through camp to this point, when they have done this, it's been on the other end towards the indoor facility. Well, not today. They put them right there in front of the assembled fans and the bleachers, which I think is a good thing, because that's probably just going to up the competitiveness. Guys don't want to get worked in front of a full bleacher of fans. And so got things going earlier. I thought Cam Robinson had a nice rep working against Josh Hines-Allen. DaVon Hamilton, I think he's been great this camp, man. The big man feeling good, feeling healthy, showed some ability to push the pocket, crush the nose, and working against center Mitch Morse. Brandon Scherf working at the guard position. He actually had a W while working against DaVon. And then Mason Smith. You know, I thought of Mason Smith earlier in camp, just looking at him thinking, this is probably more of a developmental guy. And I'm not going to go ahead and start giving him first team reps, because we all know Eric Armstead is over on the sideline, and you're going to put him with DaVon Hamilton when the time comes that you want to do that. But Mason Smith is starting to show some signs, at least, that if you need him as a rotational piece, and it sounds like they want to go deep, they want to constantly work a rotation that can keep their guys fresh. Mason Smith starting to look more like that guy. And I think his former LSU teammate, Jordan Jefferson, in a situational role, first down, obvious run situations, I think he might be able to give you something too. Roy Robertson Harris looked good in some of these one-on-ones. He was too much for Blake Hance on one particular rep. And then your rookie tackle, Javon Foster, came in from Missouri. He was really solid against Deshaun Dixon. Unfortunately for Dixon, that rep was the one that led to him temporarily leaving practice. Pretty cool, too, to see Josh Hines-Allen. As soon as it happened, Hines-Allen was right there checking on a guy like Deshaun Dixon. And so Dixon, fortunately, was able to return to practice. You get into some 11-on-11 full field work once again, following 7-on-7. It was the first OL to open the period. You had a mix mostly of 2s and 3s on defense. The offense comes out in that 12 with Farrell and Strange at the tight ends. And, we talked about this earlier. Some nice run support from Ronald Darby against Travis Etienne. Trevor Lawrence working some boot action early on in this period, keeping it, covering the football as he kept it and kind of worked his way into traffic. Of course, Trevor's off limits to any kind of contact. That's not going to happen. You saw Etienne with a bounce run off the right edge, pretty soft edge off that right side for an explosive play. Trevor comes back, hits Gabe Davis on a slant, and then, they run that boot, they move Trevor, and then they try to catch it taking the cheese, so to speak. And they sprint Trevor slightly, like a half sprint to his left, and then they like to come back with, it's not probably technically a jerk route, but it kind of feels that way, because they get you chasing Trevor one way, and then they take either Ingram, or in this case, it was Christian Kirk, and cross him all the way the other side. And I don't think Braswell, who was in coverage, from what I saw of the coverage, it looked clean. Now, I didn't see maybe at the top of the route, because it is so hard as a defensive back to avoid illegal use of hands or holding or any other penalty they throw on these defensive backs these days. But as far as at the top of the route and beyond, Braswell was in good shape, had good coverage down the field, running stride for stride with Kirk, and the pass went incomplete. This was also about the time Cam had to leave practice. It was late, as I recall, when that actually happened. You had a nice touchdown run by Tank Bigsby in the red zone. You had a DaVon Hamilton stuff of Dearness Johnson. It was tough for Dearness Johnson on Friday. Just didn't have a lot of help. And then I also like this too in the practice later, I think it was. Devin Lloyd just absolutely blew up a screen to Dearness Johnson. And it wasn't even the athleticism as much, because I know Devin Lloyd has that. It was that he played it to a T. He knew where he needed to be. He knew who he had, and he played fast, even with all of that. And it was a TFL on a screen to Dearness Johnson. And then Roy Robertson Harris also with a TFL, or what would have been a TFL, I think, on running back Jalen Jackson as well. So as you can tell, still a lot of good give and take between the offense and the defense. We didn't see Cam Little and field goals. That wasn't a point of emphasis on Friday. Again, we did see some kickoff return in terms of special teams work during the practice, but it was a very competitive day, which is what you want if you're Doug Peterson. It unfortunately also was a day where there was too much talk and too much of a continuation in terms of injuries. Now, you think about starters and frontline guys, it's pretty much Anton Harrison right now. I guess you could throw Wingard in there as well, but you just don't like to see it, especially the injury that Murtaugh suffered there in the goal line period. So that's going to do it for the latest installment of No Sleep Teal. You got the practice at Everbank Stadium on Saturday. Going to celebrate local veterans and also active duty military members. So you like to see that. That's going to happen on Saturday at Everbank Stadium. Check it out if you get a chance. And be sure to subscribe to our channel here. If you're enjoying the content, No Sleep Teal, we talk college football on the channel, get into a lot of different things here on Reier on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. Turn on those notifications, and if you would hit us with a like, we would appreciate that as well. Travis Reier thanking you once again, and until next time, so long, everybody.